So if you were to ask me globally, what areas potentially represent future risks in terms of asset prices, in terms of defaults, and in terms of sources of contagion, I would say there are really two areas in the global economy, and I'm taking aside geopolitics. One is private credit, both the size, the quantum of growth, lending standards, and most importantly, the opacity of that sector, and particularly the multiple layers of credit in the system is actually very, very difficult to track. And there is a point at which you can get concerned. The other, of course, is AI and artificial intelligence. Obviously, this is transformative for the world, and whenever you have a technology that is potentially transformative, you see a massive inflow of capital, but that is not a precise science. And traditionally, most transformative technologies are usually coupled with asset bubbles, while not all asset bubbles are coupled with transformative technology. The bigger question is how much potential in terms of contagion from these asset classes or these categories is to the rest of the world and to Saudi Arabia specifically, and that is something we are still thinking through. So far, it looks like the contagion effect and the transmission mechanisms are still quite limited, but this is still work in progress. The main indicator we have to this is, first of all, private credit in Saudi Arabia. Even though I mentioned it has doubled in size, it is still almost nothing in comparison with the asset management industry in Saudi. I mentioned asset management industry in Saudi is 1.2 trillion. Private credit is 5 billion riyal, so it is less than, it is almost insignificant in terms of an impact on the overall credit quality of the industry. The other factor is the leverage levels in the Saudi economy overall. The Saudi government has total debt to GDP of around 30% to GDP. If you look at total debt in the economy, it's probably closer to 50% of GDP. If we look at credit and leverage in the non-financial sector in publicly listed firms, it is still actually at around 20% debt to capital. And interestingly enough, leverage levels in publicly listed firms have actually come down, not up, from 2020 to 24. I think it was about 24%, and it has come down to roughly 20%. So while there are concerns in the global market, it looks like Saudi Arabia is still not as impacted just because of the size and the leverage.